So we were able to complete our dashboard page. Now it is time to create our profile page. So first, let's take a look at our profile page. We have a side section and the main section. It is similar to the dashboard page. The side section is taking up to 1/4 of the space and the right one is taking up to 3/4. Inside our side section, we have an image, the username, and then we are just showing how many blogs have been created by that user. Also, if we are viewing our own profile, we can see this button, create a new blog. So on the right, we can see the created blog list, which includes all the blogs that has been created by this user. Since we are viewing our own profile, we can see the view, delete, and edit buttons. If we are viewing someone else's profile, we can only see the view button. So now let's create this page. So let's go into our code. And the first thing I'm going to do is create a new directory inside my views. And I'm going to name it user. And inside I'm going to create a file and name it profile.blade.php. So we are just going to use our app layout. And the first thing we need to do is create a div, of course. So let's add our classes. The first one is going to be padding y6. So I want space on the top and the bottom. We are also going to add container. And on smaller screen, I want it to be flex. And also MX auto. So next, we are going to create two div for these two sections, the side section and the right one. So inside this div, I'm going to create another one, add the classes. The first one is going to be width full, and on smaller screen, I want it to take only 1/4 of the space. And that's it. Now let's the other section and add some classes to it. Width full. On small, I want the width to be 3/4. Also background white. Also the edges should be rounded. Overflow should be hidden. Shadow should be small. And on smaller screen, the border radius should be large. Also let's add padding 2, margin top 2, and on smaller screen I don't want margin top, and on smaller screen I want margin left to be 5, and that's it. So inside this first side section, let's add an image tag. So inside here, the first thing we are going to add is an image tag. I'm just going to link to an external image on the web. I'm just adding the link to it. And then we are going to add some classes to our image tag. The first one is going to be width 1/4. And I want the image to be rounded. So this image will be shown as a rounded image. Also MX auto. So it will center it. Let's go to our profile page and view users profile not found. Actually, we need to rename the users, and that's it. Hit refresh, and now we can see our image here. Actually, I'm just going to move this image into another div and add some classes to this div, which is background white, rounded, shadow small. On smaller screen, the rounded should be large, text center, and padding of 2. So now if we go back to the browser, we can see a background of white and our image is now centered. Next, let's add the username. So here I'm just going to use h2 and I'm going to give it a class of font bold and padding y2. We can use John Doe. You can see we are able to see our username. So here what we actually need to do is, since we will be passing the user detail from our controller, we will have the access to this user variable, which is going to be an instance of user model. So we have name. We can see our name here now. And next we need to add an HR with the class of margin y2 and another div for blog posted text. So the class is going to be font bold and the text is going to be blogs posted. Hit save, go back to the browser. We are making some progress. Okay, so we need to add this count and this button. So right below this div, another div, class, text blue, 700, and it should be text to Excel. Here we are just going to do the same thing, user, blogs, count. And now we can see the counts of blog that has been created by this user. The last thing is the button. So let's use our Xlink component, and the href is going to be the route blogs.create, and the text is create a new blog. Okay, so we have created a generic profile page. So this button should only be visible if we are viewing our own profile. So let's add this condition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a blade directive. So if the authenticated user ID is equals to the user ID, the user we are seeing right now, then we want to show this button. So in our case, it is true, and that's why we are able to see this button. So our site section is done. So now let's move ahead and add these cards for the blog post. So inside our code, let's work inside this div now. So the first thing is an h3 tag, which is just going to show our text of created blogs list. And we need to append some classes to it. So text to Excel, I want the text to be uppercase, and text should also be centered. There should be some padding around it, and the border of bottom should be 2. So let's go back, and now we can see our title here. Alright, now we need to work on our cards. So let's go back to the code, and below this heading, let's create another div. I'm just going to add classes, inline block for smaller screen, and flex for larger screen. Also, items should be centered, align centered, and I want the flex to be wrapped. So now we are working on our card. Let's create one. Div, class, on smaller screen I want the width to be full, on larger I want it to take half of the space. So width 1/2. The margin top should be 6, and the padding on both sides should also be 6. Padding white should be 4. The background needs to be white. I think we don't need that one. Yep, we can get rid of this one. And the shadow should be medium. On smaller screen, the round width should be large. And on hover, we also need to increase the shadow to large. I think we are pretty much done. Let's add a dummy text to it. Go back to the browser, hover over it, and we can see the shadow right underneath it. So it is working. Let's go back and complete our card now. So inside the demo application, we can see that the first thing is the image and HR tag, then the title of the blog, then these buttons, and then the description. So let's do this. First thing is image. I'm just going to refer to the dummy image for now. Asset, blogs dummy, and I'm going to append some classes to this. And the maximum width should be full, maximum height should be 52, and I want it to be centered. Okay, let's give it a shot, and it's here, it's working. Alright, so we have added the image, and now we need to add an HR tag with margin Y of 2, and now we need to add this blog title and these buttons. So here I'm just going to create another div, add the class of flex, and justify between, and I want the items to be centered. Now inside here we have a heading, which is the blog title. So blog title, and right next to it we have another div of button. So we are going to append the class of flex, and inside let's create our links. So we are going to use our xlink component, href. The route is going to be blogs.show. The text is going to be view, and the next button is for edit. The route is going to be blogs.edit, and we need to pass in the blog ID as well. So for now let's add one. Actually there is delete button. Okay, so let's add this delete button here. So it is actually not going to be the button, but instead we are going to add the form. So form, the action is going to be route blogs.delete, blog ID. The method is going to be post. Let's add our CSRF token, and also we need to override the method, which is also called method spoofing, to be delete. And we are going to have a button. So this is going to be a submit button, and the text is going to be delete. And I think that's pretty much it. Let's go back to our browser, and we are seeing an error. Okay, so we are missing the parameter. All right, here. Now we are good to go, and you can see our blog card. Okay, we are missing some spaces between this button and our description text. Okay, so let's go back to our code, and instead of adding margin to all the buttons, what I'm going to do is mx1. Since this is a centered button, it will automatically add the margin to the both sides. So it looks like this, which is good. So now we also need to add the condition. So if blog creator ID is actually equal to the authenticator user ID, then we want to show these buttons. Otherwise he won't be able to delete or edit any blog post. So that's it, and right underneath this div we need to add an HR with a class of margin y2, and the only thing remaining is a paragraph, which is going to contain the blog description. So let's go to our dashboard page and copy the dummy text. And that's it. Let's go back to the browser. We have an error. Did I copy something? Okay. So we are not getting any blog here. So what I can do is 1, since our authenticated user ID is 1. So if I hit refresh, it's working. Oh no, actually it's not. It must be 3, I guess. Yeah. So that's it. And we also need to trim this text. What I'm going to do is use str limit and our text, and I want it to be limited to 100 characters. So now we have also created our blog card. With this we have completed our profile page. So our dashboard page is done and our profile page is done. But still there is one problem. We are still showing mostly the dummy data, and we need to get rid of it, and then we will work on the blog pages. So first let's make our profile page dynamic. So inside our code, this div which represents a blog card, we need to move it into a for each loop. So user blogs as blog, let's paste it here. And now we need to remove the dummy content and replace it with the actual data. So the image is going to be, if the blog has an image, then we are going to show that image asset blog image file path. Otherwise, we are just going to show the dummy image. Next, we need to replace this title with blog title. We are passing in this ID, which is static right now. Now we need to get rid of this one, and this one. So these are blog IDs which are static at the moment. So it is going to be blog ID. And right below, we need to just remove this dummy description and add blog description, or actually body. Also below this div, we need to add pagination. So inside a paragraph tag, I'm going to add my2 and user blogs links. So here we will show our pagination. Right now the pagination won't work, and also we will be using CK editor. So we need to make some modification for that as well. Instead of double curly braces, I'm going to escape the HTML string. So what I'm going to do is use this, and inside we are going to limit the body of the blog to 100 characters. And that is it for the profile page. Now if I go back to the browser, hit refresh, we are not seeing any error, which means we are now done for the profile page. So now let's go into our dashboard code and make some necessary changes. First, right above this div of blog post, I want to add a condition here. So if there is no blog post, then we are just going to show this text. And then we need to move this div inside a for each loop. Now let's make it dynamic. So if the blog has an image, then show it, otherwise show the dummy image. The blog title will be blog, and the title property. Now the created by is actually going to be blog creator, which is the relation, and name. Also we need to get rid of this dummy description, and instead let's add our blog description here. So blog body, and we want it to be limited to 275 characters. str limit, and that's it. Also we need to remove this one from here and pass in the blog ID. Under this for each loop, I want our pagination to show the links. So blogs links. And now our dashboard is dynamic as well. So if I hit refresh, no error, which means everything is working fine. So now we have worked on our dashboard page and the profile page. Next, we will work on our blog pages. Actually, before moving to the blog pages, I quickly want to add something to our application. So the pagination that we have added won't work right now. So in order to make them work, we need to add something to our package.json file. You can either run the command, or you can just simply add this TailwindCSS plugin to your package.json. Now go to the terminal and run npm update. So it has just added this one package. Now we need to go into tailwind.config.js, and inside this plugin we need to add this require statement. And now our pagination will work.